Hello, welcome back. We have another article from Robert Whiting. This one came out yesterday, January 25th, 2024, from California, where he's right now. He'll be back beginning of February. The title is Demise of Sports Illustrated, especially sad as it played a key role in launch of my career. Robert Whiting. That's his career, not mine, Max Morris. Robert is the preeminent English language authority on Japanese professional baseball and also Japanese professional yakuza or organized crime. Let me get started. California. A great magazine died recently, Sports Illustrated, with the announcement January 19th, 2024, that it would be laying off its entire staff. The magazine's ownership had missed a $3.75 million quarterly licensing payment to Authentic Brands Group, which then terminated its licensing agreement with the publication. The magazine had once been one of the crown jewels in the storied Time Life publishing group dating back to its inception in the mid-1950s. Its writers and photographers became media stars, internationally known. Circulation surpassed 3 million per week at the peak of the magazine's popularity, more than Time or Reader's Digest. There were spin-offs in Canada and Australia, and in 1980, the Japanese magazine company Bunge Shungu Publishing Company of Japan acquired the rights to Sports Illustrated material to launch Number magazine, made famous by Junji Yamagiwa's essay on Yutaka Inatsu. Inatsu no Nijukyu, a tribute to the relief pitcher's victorious Game 7 appearance in the 1979 Japan Series, propelling the Central League's Hiroshima Carp to the Japan Championship over the Kintetsu Buffaloes. However, hard times caused by the digital era ate into profits, and in 2018, the parent company Time Incorporated was acquired by the Meredith Corporation, a Midwest media conglomerate who in turn sold it to Authentic Brands Group, a brand management company based in New York City. Arena, a New Jersey-based sports website, purchased the rights to Sports Illustrated and defaulted on a payment earlier this year, which spelled the end of the magazine. In its heyday, Sports Illustrated was one of the most revered magazines in all of publishing, sports or otherwise. America's best-known writers and photographers vied for the chance to appear in its pages. One of their editors was Robert Creamer, who wrote the definitive biography of Babe Ruth. Babe. Another writer named Frank DeFord became a household name for his inventive stories. Assigned to cover the Super Bowl one year, DeFord opted to stay in his motel room and write about the guests in adjoining rooms instead. It was hilarious and became one of his greatest pieces. Writer George Plimpton took part in the Detroit Lions football training camp as third-string quarterback to write about how an average person would do competing with professional athletes. He appeared in real team scrimmages, fumbling snaps from the center and unable to throw the ball further than 15 yards. The result was a series of articles and a best-selling book called Paper Lion in 1966, which became a movie. SI photographers Walter Eels and Neil Leifer also became international stars with their cover shots. It was the highest of honors for an athlete to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. NBA legend Michael Jordan holds the record for most cover appearances with 50. Muhammad Ali was next with 40. Ichiro was on the cover twice. Sports Illustrated helped make my career. In the summer of 1975, I was living in Manhattan, 68 West 82nd Street off Central Park West, and had just finished writing The Chrysanthemum and the Bat. I took it to 12 different New York publishers and was turned down by all of them. No one buys books about baseball or Japan, I was told. I was broke, with holes in the soles of my shoes, and did not have enough money to even pay my rent, $240, for my studio apartment due at the end of the month. Then I took it to Sports Illustrated, hoping to sell a chapter. A very nice young lady named Patricia Ryan said, "We like chapter 2 and we'll publish it. By the way, I know you're having a hard time finding a publisher, so why don't you take it over to Peter Weed at Dodd Mead and tell him SI has purchased first serialization rights." That was a Friday. By Monday, I had a contract, and my life was irrevocably changed. I went on to write several lengthy features for SI about baseball in Japan over the years, and the magazine excerpted "You Gotta Have Wa" and "The Meaning of Ichiro." Patricia Ryan went on to become the first female managing director of People magazine. I spent a lot of time at Sports Illustrated over the years, including a week in 1982 at the request of Number magazine to write a piece about their editorial staff. The managing editor at the time was Gil Rogan. The magazine always closed on Sunday night, but this time on a Sunday afternoon, Gil decided he didn't like any of the main stories, including the cover piece, and trashed them all at 3 in the afternoon. He ordered his writers to come up with 6 or 7 new ones, and no one was going home. And they did. We were there until past midnight. What a talented group of people. It was Mark Mavoy, then assistant editor and a future managing editor, who came up with the title "You Gotta Have Wa" for a feature article I wrote for SI that became the title of the 1989 book. I knew the SI managing editor, Terry McDonald, fairly well. In 2003, he asked me to spend a month in May 2003 following the New York Yankees around to write about the Japanese press covering Hideki Matsui. I couldn't do it, as the Meaning of Ichiro book tour of the US was scheduled. I always regretted it. Sports journalism has lost some of the edge it once had. With digital competition, everything seems rushed. Nobody sweats over every word, as Irwin Shaw once said every good writer should do. SI fell into a long decline and went from a weekly to a bi-weekly and then a monthly as sales fell. On November 7th, 2023, Futurism published an article alleging that Sports Illustrated was publishing AI-generated articles credited to authors who were also AI-generated. The damage to the magazine's reputation was fatal. Sports Illustrated, rest in peace. The end. Two of the comments below, I'll read them as well, from robertwhitingsubstack.com. Joseph A. Reeves wrote, "Beautifully sad." And then he added, "Bob, don't know if you ever knew John Schulian, a beautiful writer who appeared in SI often. He moved to Arizona last year, just a few miles from me. He is very frail and housebound, but I had him and a gaggle of friends over for lunch last week. Passing on your SI column to him." And oh, I see. Bob actually wrote back to him and said, "I know the name, Joe. What a sad, sad tale. Did you see this?" And it's a link to one of my favorite newspapers, New York Post, and the title is Sports Illustrated Future Hangs on Standoff Between Billionaire Sources. And this was, Josh Cosman wrote it, and it was published January 24th, 2024. It's a bit long, but just the first paragraph. Basically, they said Sports Illustrated's future comes down on a high-stakes game of chicken between the iconic magazine's billionaire overlords, the Post has learned. In one corner stands Manoj Bhargava, the founder of 5 Hour Energy and top shareholder of SI publisher The Arena Group, who made a risky bet to withhold paying the licensing fee in a bid to renegotiate terms on a contract that runs through 2029. In the other is Jamie Salter, a Canadian licensing magnate whose Authentic Brands owns the storied title and called Bhargava's bluff, fearing the tactic could embolden other authentic licensees, a source close to the situation told the Post. Stuck between the battling barons with net worth of roughly $1.5 billion and $1.1 billion respectively are the roughly 100 arena workers, most of them in the SI union, who may be cast aside in the next 2 months if the two can't work out a deal. Manoj wanted to negotiate a new licensing agreement, and Jamie said no, a source close to the situation told the Post. Manoj was surprised for sure, a second source added. It was a gambit that didn't pay off. Authentic, which has allowed Arena to keep publishing SI, has said it would keep the SI brand alive after revoking Arena's license. The two sides continued talking, a source told the Post on Wednesday. Salter has also had discussions with Penske Media, Vox, and Essence to take over the Sports Illustrated license. The Post reported exclusively last week. Authentic Brands Vice Chair and Head of Tactical Ops, Daniel Dienst, is acting as Salter's representative in the talks, according to sources. Arena said it could not comment due to its ongoing discussions with Salter's Authentic Brands. Bhargava and Salter declined comment. Authentic owns 50-plus brands, including storied retail labels like Aeropostale, Brooks Brothers, Forever 21, and Izod, as well as the rights to dead celebrities, including Elvis Presley, Bob Marley, and Marilyn Monroe. A new publisher may be more interested in keeping seasoned reporters and the long-form journalism that made SI famous, another source said. A source said part of Arena's decision to enact the massive layoffs was to get rid of high-paid writers, 8 of whom allegedly make a combined $2 million. The company sent out a mandatory 60-day warn notice to SI staff last week and fired some workers immediately. The magazine's few remaining big-name writers include Tom Verducci, John Wertheim, Chris Mannix, Greg Bishop, and Pat Ford. They remain on the payroll, but the plan is to fire them and offer to bring them back on a contract basis, one of the sources said. Manoj does not like high salaries, the insider said. This needs to be on a different platform to ensure great journalism. SI, which in its heyday had a circulation of 3 million a week, has been reduced to 12 issues a year for an annual fee of $20. There are also about 7 annual special issues. Arena does not break out how many print subscribers remain for a magazine that featured some of the nation's best writers when it was launched nearly 70 years ago. The publicly traded company said SI's website gets about 70 million users a month. It generates roughly 2/3 of Arena's $250 million in revenue, sources said. 2 of the sources said SI turns a small profit, but a third source said it loses money for Arena. Bhargava wants to cut its $50 million annual licensing fee by at least a third to $10 million as digital ad sales across the publishing industry fall, according to those with knowledge of Bhargava's thinking. Arena skipped making a quarterly $3.75 million licensing payment to Authentic on January 2nd to force Salter's hand. Authentic can charge Arena a $45 million penalty for non-payment, sources said. Bhargava, 70, signed a letter of intent in August to buy Arena Group. That deal has not closed. Arena stock, which traded as high above $14 14 months ago has fallen below $1 since news broke about Authentic yanking its SI license. The company's stewardship of the fabled brand came under fire after it was reported last November that SI published AI-generated content. Arena CEO Ross Levinson was fired shortly after, and Bargava took over as CEO last month, but stepped down on January 4th, 2 days after initiating the standoff with Authentic, citing a conflict of interest. The company named FTI consultant Jason Frankel as its chief business transformation officer. And I will put the link to this New York Post article in the description. Anyways, that seems to be it for now. Please like and subscribe if you want more. And also, I encourage you to take a look at Bob Whiting's Substack. It is mostly by subscription, but I think it's worth it. Also, any of the books. Also, in this description, as always, I put on the links to his most recent books, Tokyo Junkies. There's another one coming out this year in April. It's going to be about basically the scoundrels, the con men, gamblers, foreigners who've been in Japan. And so I think it will be an interesting read. I'll come up with a couple more Bob Whiting articles, both from several years ago, and also his most recent ones. Anyways, it was especially I knew the story about how SI played a role in getting his first book published, and so yeah, it was a sad story to hear. I'll just remind you, though, when it was in the 1970s, and he had indicated he'd been turned down by 12 different publishers. You got to kind of remember they didn't have answering machines in those days. They didn't have Kinkos, and you didn't send something over with a PDF. I mean, you had to print your manuscript out there, and you hit the pavement, and you didn't even have call waiting. You had to kind of sit by the phone waiting for the ring. So it's a different kind of pressure that I don't think a lot of people remember, even if you were old enough. I wasn't. But anyways, that's that. Have a good day.